Welcome to Oregon Voters Digest, the program that brings forward the social and political issues that are important to people living here in the Pacific Northwest. And now, your host, Bruce Broussard.
Thanks again for this segment of the Oregon Voters Digest. I'm Bruce Broussard, your host here at the Oregon Voters Digest. We're going to have quite a show today. That's all some interesting things this past week. Joining me doing this particular show, this event, we got Jack Kerfoot. Jack's going to be with us. He's a member of the U.S. Army. Now, in all due respect, let's just go on and talk about this busy weekend. First thing I think we want to acknowledge was the Marine Corps birthday. We had the Marine Corps birthday this past week, and normally I'm attending I'm a guest at the Annapolis Naval Academy, celebrating and honoring several Marines on the Marine Corps birthday. And during that particular event, we've got Marines there, and we get a letter from the commandant of the Marine Corps and whatever, and that's read, and a lot of the locals are there, and then we tell our stories and the like and whatever. And at the end of the ceremony, we cut a cake, and everybody starts eating Marine Corps birthday cake, and they each are given an extra piece, if you will, to go home and take to their wives and whatever. And I thought that was very, very interesting. And some of the notables that you might recognize their names are like Bud Clark, remember him, former mayor of the city of Portland. He's normally there, and Bud Clark, former governor Ted Kulingoski, who's a Marine, he was there, and I think Pete Simpson, Portland Police Department, another Marine, if you will, he was there, and a number of other, I think with several others. The bottom line is it kind of gives you an idea what the setting was like. And a guy named Bomarito was the guy that basically was the leading proponent. He was from the Navy, and he basically was in charge of that whole gathering, for that matter. It's always been a very neat. We do this at the give them a plug, if you will, at the Spaghetti Factory here in Portland, Oregon. We do that every year, and it's been very, very enjoyable. But this year, we didn't do it. We didn't do it naturally because of the COVID-19. And so we just basically, they sent letters out to everyone, and basically in recognizing and acknowledging our birthday that day, and that's basically what it was. I'm looking forward to it next year, and that'd be great. Because that was our first event. The second event naturally was Veterans Day, and it was a very big event. That's every year, and normally what I try to do is that naturally it's well publicized. There are events throughout the city of Portland and Washington because we're right there on the border of Washington, and so we have all sorts of events. And as a previous president of the Buffalo Soldiers Association, I was very much involved and with speakers and the like throughout the city of Portland. And then there are other events, the Air Force, the Navy. I mean, everybody's all involved in the whole issue of Veterans Day. And one entity that I've always respected and promoted was that of the Tribune. It's the only major daily newspaper besides the Oregonian, but the daily newspaper here in the Portland metropolitan area. We tend to focus specifically on that particular paper. I mean, they distribute it throughout other areas within the state of Oregon, but the Portland Tribune is pretty well specifically to Portland. And within that particular publication, there's always an insert. An insert does something like this. The way it looks like I should show you a copy of the paper. This is a copy of the paper for that particular issue right here. You can see it, but that's the front page of the paper. Mangus Mappes is on there. They did an article on him, but within the paper, there's a brochure, or if not that, an enclosed there of veterans, highlighted veterans, in a different theme each year. And I thought that was interesting. It's about 40 page long. We have veterans, and in this particular issue, just basically a salute to veterans, honoring those who served our country, and the whole issue of community, meaning that folks who have gotten back from the military and what they were doing locally and contributing to the community here in the Portland metropolitan area. And I thought it was a very interesting one. And in the past, I've made sure that I've given a list of some of the, in all due respect, the African-American Marines, if you will, and military personnel here within the Portland metro area. some of the folks who are notables who were in the brochure through the years. People like Harry Jackson, Portland Police Department. Let's see, there were some other entities that were there that I highlighted and gave them. But again, the other concern was making sure that the issue was well promoted among a diversified military group, because it was a very diversified group. They were having problems finding military personnel of other backgrounds. There'd be Native Americans, African Americans, Hispanics, Asians, the whole 9 yards. And trust me, they served very honorably. And I'm sure Jack could probably mention that, because the Nissans were there. I remember them. I remember working very closely with them in the past. They've got quite a history. Korean Marines, they've got quite a history. Normally during the Korean War, you might have heard about them because of that relationship aspect of it. And then from a local standpoint, I like to, again, highlight people like, for instance, Charles Jordan, former city council person who was a member of the Army. He was a veteran. And again, here we go again, serving the community. He was a city council person, well respected, well liked here in the Portland metropolitan area. And then from a statewide standpoint, there was a former Lieutenant Answer Haggerty, Marine Corps. And after he served on the federal court, he was a judgeship and whatever. So he served very honorably and whatever. He was well known, and he had a major case here as far in Oregon, but realistically, something that reflected throughout these United States. And there was a Sherrod thing, kind of a sort of a racial whatever kind of a deal that was going. And they held that particular case, and he was there. And by the way, he's also mentioned as one of the most decorated military person here in the state of Oregon. He's listed as one of the most decorated persons here in the state of Oregon. And that was interesting. So by getting these kinds of background and talking to the diversity, it just shows you about the contributions of all of us, all Americans for that matter, here within our country that we're all serving. And so consequently, every year I would try to give them some names, especially the Tribune. And naturally, it just so happened that made me feel good. But yours truly, Channel 12 contacted me, and I did a little short piece on basically talking about what I was doing with regards to the No Vets Left Behind program, that you understand that I've been reaching out, which, by the way, this is one of the programs that talks to reaching out to veterans, because that's why we wear our uniform. And that's why you got a lot of times you'll see many of the guest hosts that are coming on here. They tend to adorn their covers and identify their military involvement aspect of it. So anyway, the Veterans Day was a very interesting, very unique piece. And by the way, this particular issue of the Tribune is still out today. It's out today, and you can get it on the newsstand. You can get it on the newsstand today. If not that, you can Google it. And that's a good way of getting it too. The other thing I might mention, since we're talking about this piece real quick, and then I want that Jack can comment on it along his line. The other thing is that this whole issue of veterans. We've got this coronavirus, this pandemic aspect of it, and a lot of the vets are still out there. A lot of them are homeless, still homeless, and the like, and they've got benefits. And that was one of the concerns that I've always had in terms of trying to reach out to try to find these individuals and then gear them to, if you will, to the VA, so they can get that benefits. We got probably the best benefit in the world, one of the best benefits in the world, and that's the VA. And there's quite a service, and there's no cost. There's no cost to veterans, depending upon your ranking, whether you were in Vietnam or you were not. But if you were a veteran, you got service. And there's some other brilliant service, whether it be mental illness or anything of that nature. And I would refer you to, and I put these things on that I have to do nowadays. But the idea is that we've got, there's a brochure that comes out on an annual basis. Normally I tend to hand these out. You can pick those up at any of the VAs and whatever. But you also can get a copy of this. This tells you about all the benefits that can go to veterans of all sources, all veterans for that matter. You can pick up that brochure, and you can get, and then there's this one universal number that you can call anywhere in these United States, outside of the United States, and you can basically get a copy of this brochure, and or you can talk to an individual who will basically talk to you about getting you certified and get you into the system. And that phone number, by the way, and it's toll free, by the way, 1-877-222-8387. Again, 1-877-222-8387. Again, it's a valuable tool. Talks about the whole works. And also, if you've got a spouse, they too can basically live and involve them one way or the other. So there's a lot of goodies in this particular brochure, but call that number. And what they're looking for is your DD-214, so find it. And if anything, everybody knows that number, that last four, because it's everything. And the number that last four today is your Social Security number, the last four. So it makes it very easy. And I'm sure that Jack understands that back in the old days, you had another number. Mine was 1983524. I mean, I knew that one right off the bat. But nowadays, it's just the last four of your Social Security number, and it's a beautiful piece. So I would suggest very strongly that you do give them a call, and you can just talk to them in lay. If you don't have your DD-214, it will tell you how to go about getting one. Okay, and you can do it all over the phone. All over the phone. If you want to get a physical deal and basically get it on your computer, they will give you that information. I think that the idea of an individual talking to you, that's the only way to go. Then the last resort you can get, and I think I got Jack's number. He's very much involved in the No Vets Left Behind. If not that, he will be. He knows that. And then the same thing with myself. But if not that, you can just give us a call. Give me a call at 1-503-701-0457. 503-701-0457. Well, that's some of the little maintenance on the front end. And like I said, we indicated, I think a couple of shows or so ago, that we're not going to get into the national politics, because that's not where we are. And Jack will understand where I'm coming from, because in the military, our commander-in-chief is our commander-in-chief. That's who we are. And our recognition of that chief, in all due respect, is that once that person raises that hand up, left hand on the Bible and right hand up and taking in that swearing in ceremony, and becomes, if you will, our president. That's where it is. So our president today is President Donald Trump. That's basically where it is. Now, after a bit, when that happens, our commander-in-chief will be whoever that person is. And naturally, they said president-elect. It was just elect. We permission with that with former Vice President Biden. Okay, we recognize that. But the bottom line is that I'm just giving you an idea as to why we do what we do here and why we're wearing our gear. In most cases, we're trying to communicate to veterans and letting them know that they are part and parcel with the mix. Many of us don't want to get involved with the media and press and this and that. A lot of people that are not military. But the fact of the matter is, I just want you to know that there's a purpose for wearing this gear, and highlighting the fact that we've served our country in the military. Very, very important. So with that, I'm just going to go on, and as part of the maintenance piece, maybe I'm sure I missed some things. I'm going to give it now to Jack Kerfoot. I'm going to pass it over to Jack. Jack, how are you doing, bud?
Well, Bruce, I'm doing well. I think it's Veterans Day is a holiday that many people know about or a little about. But unless you've actually served in the military and been overseas and is separated from your family, I think it's really difficult to really understand what a soldier or whoever's in the military, Air Force, Marines, Navy, go through when they serve overseas. For me, I served in Vietnam in 1968 and 69. When I came back in November of 1969, I was discharged at Fort Lewis, Washington, and got on a plane in Seattle, Washington to fly home. I was spit on by people because they were opposed to the Vietnam War. And so that leaves a very harsh, bad feeling in your heart. I remember reading a book by General Schwarzkopf, who was the commander-in-chief of Desert Storm. And his comment after Desert Storm that the United States with the Allies pushed out Saddam Hussein after they invaded Kuwait. He said the first time he felt welcome back in this country was when they were welcomed on the ticker tape parade after Desert Storm in New York City. Well, that rings true to me. It took me 35 years before I could ever go back to Vietnam. I spent over 11 years in Southeast Asia, but it took me 35 years after 1969 before I could actually go back and visit that country. And although after the war, I thought I had all my emotions nicely compartmentalized and tucked away, the reality is they weren't as tucked away as I thought. And the reason I mention that is there was a program started about 3 or 4 years ago. It was called the 22 Push-Up Challenge. And what they were encouraging people to do is to do 22 push-ups to salute our veterans, because 22 veterans a day, 365 days a year in America were committing suicide. And so I went out and did the 22 push-up challenge. Actually, to the month of October, I think my final count was 4,800 push-ups for an old guy that I was told that.
Oh my God.
But that's important to recognize that many veterans, when we came back, we didn't even know what PTSD was. But many people came back from the war, from Vietnam, but their mind never came back and they never readjusted. So the trauma they experienced and veterans experience today is something that's very unique. So when I hear people say, thank you for your service with a cheery smile, I want to say, well, thank you, but you really know what this is all about? It is a life-altering experience, and the brothers and women that you serve with in the military, they are your brothers and sisters, and you show them respect. And there is no race as far as the military is concerned. You are only talking about your brother, and to make sure that you and he protect each other's six and the men and women that you serve with. So it's a unique fraternity or a club, but the dues are high. And so I'd like to recognize and thank from one old vet to all the other veterans overseas and military overseas, I sincerely thank you for your service.
Ditto. Well said. Well said, Jack. Well said. Well, okay, guys. Now again, like I said to the viewing audience and also to us, is that a lot of things we do here, people think that it's just politics across the board. But again, like I said, not being redundant, we wear this gear to let the vets know that they need to be informed also as to what's going on with their surroundings. Because at the end of the day, it's the public that picks up the tab, if you will, all these benefits that we are receiving, and at the same time, again, they're constantly have knowledge about the fact that we're trying to serve. But that's one of the reasons. But the idea is that we talk about it because now we're civilians, and the impact of our surroundings as it relates to those people who are serving us as an elected officials and whatever, and government officials who are servicing the public population as a whole. It's very important, and that's live within that environment. I wanted to make sure that we share that. Okay. So on that point, I might add now is that the area we're going to go into now is we're going to go in the city of Portland, and as you know, we just recently sort of completed the election of the elected officials that's going to be representing our city of Portland, which is 5 of them solid. Just finished 2 of them, and basically we've got the crew now. It looked like someone just rang my door. I wonder if it's Bob. But anyway, I can't get to it. I'll just leave it alone at this point in time. But anyway, I'm talking about Mayor Ted Wheeler. You know, he is the mayor. He's the sitting mayor. We've got Dan Ryan, and we've got Mingus Maps. We got Joanne Hardesty and Carmen Rubio. I mean, what a representative group. I mean, these are well-seasoned individuals across the board. These people have really been involved, and there's a lot of work to do. Yeah, for those of you who have been with us before, we've discussed a lot of the issues, and there's a lot of things that have, from a historical standpoint, a lot of things happen here. Some of the main things at top of the list, and all due respect, today's top of the list is the pandemic. Okay, that's major. But initially, it was the homeless piece aspect of it. That was huge. And then with the homeless piece, when the pandemic came and whatever, all of a sudden we had the whole issue of the demonstration within the city of Portland, primarily downtown. And that was a very interesting piece, aspect of it. And then naturally we had the other issues that were brought up by many of the individuals who were running for office, like police. And then naturally we got into that. They've got quite a smorgasbord, if you will, of issues that we're going to have to deal with. And we're going to be part of that. We're definitely going to be part of that here at the Oregon Voters Digest, because vets were trying to participate during that particular time, especially in the demonstration aspect of it. And as far as some of the other issues that were there, now again, thinking about city council, the only person on the city council that's a vet, prior vet, was of all people, Joanne Hardesty. A lot of folks don't realize that, but Joanne Hardesty was from the Navy. She was Navy, and naturally we were very involved. In fact, I was very involved in the county when I ran for the county, and again, that's another reason why I'm running. And hopefully, Jack ran also too. And that's what running for office during that time. You got me? And you'd be surprised. We definitely get involved. And one of the things that I was trying to put on, and I was very excited about even the city and county, because they're supposed to be working together, was to bring up an old tradition, if you will, with government. And before they open up and get in on their issues and open up the meeting, there's an acknowledgement of the flag with the citing of the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag and a prayer. And that was very powerful. And during the time that I ran, I took a vet with me at the county, and we took the 3 minutes, both each, and we had everybody to stand up, and we cited the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag, and that was a good thing. And then naturally, when you think about the city council, I couldn't get access to the city council during that particular time. But now that we have a vet at City Hall, maybe we might be able to get that. That could be the first post. Oh, he'll do the first shot. He'll do that first shot on this. But anyway, we got a full crew, right? We got a full crew, and so those are just my little quickie comment. I'll bring Jack in now and see what he thinks, because he too is very much involved with them, and let you know his participation and how and why he ran during that time. Okay, go on, Jack. Whatever you want to say.
The reason I ran, I mean, there were 18 people that ran for mayor, and I believe there were 14, 15, actually 17 people that ran for commissioner number 2, and I was one of them. And we were running because most of us thought the city was going in the wrong direction. And I found it interesting. There's an opinion piece in the Oregonian. It's entitled "City Council Has a Chance to Reset." Amid impassioned protests since May, the mayor and the commissioners consistently failed to set a unified voice that could bring Portlanders together. And I hope that the new commissioners can work together. Will they all agree on all the issues? Of course not. And to me, a diverse opinion and different perspectives is extremely valuable. Extremely valuable. We don't want everyone thinking the same way. Otherwise, you end up with the same thing time and time again, and you seldom improve that way. But I do want them to work together and debate, but work together as a unified council for the betterment of our city, because our city is facing some horrendous challenges. We're having a reset on COVID because of the record spike that we've just had, and the biggest spike is in Multnomah County. And that's going to devastate businesses downtown even further. We've, of course, had the announcements of 700 layoffs at Nike. Their Precision Parts, which is a major employer, has just had a major layoff as well in Portland. We've also read that Intel is looking about outsourcing their chip manufacturing, which would mean that's a closure of the chip plant in the metro area in Beaverton. So these are major businesses that are at risk. And all of those businesses that employ one person, they actually employ 4 or 5 more. Some you could argue 6 or 7 for the doctors, the dentists, the restaurateurs, the dry cleaners, in the grocery stores, all the services that are provided that we take for granted, they are here for one reason, to support people that are working full time creating things or building things for our community. So to me, I am very concerned about how our economy is going to rebound and how our city council will work with the business community as well as the entire population of our metro area to reinvigorate our city for the prosperity of everyone.
Okay, good, Dak. I was just thinking that, and I'll just throw out some things. We'll just go back and forth on this piece aspect of it. Let's just go down the line, the list, if you will, of those individuals that are going to be representing us for the next 2 to 4 years aspect of it, and what do we think they might represent and what they bring? What are their strong points that they bring to the table to resolve some of the problems? Okay, naturally we've got the mayor who's already spent. He's just come off a trek of 4 years, and 4 years at the city council. Background-wise, he served in 2 other positions before he became mayor aspect of one, chair of the county, and then naturally the state treasurer aspect of it. So he had a little taste of the state as a treasurer, state treasurer, and then but locally, being chair of the county during that particular time, they were having issues. And as you note, the county tend to we got 4 different areas, if you will, major areas. The largest county in the largest county in the county, it would be the second district, and that's basically, and that's about 80%, 80 to 90% of the city of Portland per se. It's the largest county in the area, and so that's kind of interesting piece. So he brings some background with reference to dealing in the county aspect of it as former chair. He only spent 1 term there. Well, yeah, 1 term, 4 years. Spent 4 years there, that particular piece. And then we got our friend Dan Ryan, and Dan's been around for quite some time, and he'd been very, very active, if you will, in the city, in various areas, education and the like, and in fact, mental illness and other areas along that particular line, which I'm sure the whole issue of homelessness, which is an area that he's very interested in resolving, if you will. I think that's an asset to us. We got Mingus. Got Mingus Maps. Mingus has been around. Well, he's a well-educated kind of a guy, and he understands politics big time. And then it was interesting about him in many ways is that from a local standpoint, at one point in time, he served with the commissioner that he ran against, Commissioner Udaley. And he's very familiar with the neighborhood association, and that's key, because in all due respect, those are the people. Those are the people. And we've got quite an aggressive, if you will, neighborhood association. And he having that background would really be an asset of being able to communicate to the people, because it's going to take all of us to resolve some of the problems that we have here in the city of Portland. So that representation is going to make sure that they're going to draw the people's interest by participating in our government, if you will, and to solve some of the problems we're having, And then we got Carmen Rubio, and she's neat. She's been very much involved. She's worked with a number of the folks, whether it be the commissioner, whether it be, in fact, former Commissioner Nick Fish, and she worked at the county, and also for, I think it was a former mayor and also police chief, and he was, the name doesn't come right off the bat, Tom Potter. She worked for him quite some time. And the other issue is that we have, with reference to some other issues here locally, that needs to be at the table to be discussed, because we've got the outsiders and the whole issue with the demonstration piece, people that are coming in on the outside. And one of the drawing proponents would be the whole issue of sanctuary city. I mean, it was a positive thing at one point in time and was well received by the Portland metro area. However, some of the folks were taking advantage of this. I'm talking about the outside. That's just an opinion. But look here, look like we're going to be taking a break. And I think this is great. We're going to take a short break. And in all due respect, I'm going to give it to the co-host when I get back. Like he's going to open it up, and then we're going to go from there. And I'm at that point. Anyway, we'll take a short break, and we'll be right back with you. Okay? All right. Welcome back, folks. As you note, we've been talking a bit and kind of bringing a little update on what happened this past week. It was, it was pretty busy week. It was a pretty busy week. Again, one of the major highlights from my standpoint, and each of the other entities, other services have birthdays too, but it just so happened that this week the Marine Corps had their birthday, and we did that piece. Then we had a sort of a birthday and recognition for everybody because we had Veterans Day, and Veterans Day was here. And there were a number of activities on Veterans Day, as well as the Marine Corps, but limited, but they still acknowledged that particular date. And so media did quite a job. I thought they did a good job, and also the Tribune did it does an insert. They do one every year. The only one of its kind in the state of Oregon, and I thought that was good. But naturally, one of the concerns I had, and I will be talking to the publisher and president, in that I want to make sure that they identify other service members that look like this country. We have a very diverse country, and people serve. They serve their country. And I'm talking about the Asians and Blacks and Native Americans and African Americans, and right down the line. But we're all, as Jack said in the first part of the show, we're all the brothers and sisters. We all serve. There's no racism situation in the Marine Corps or the military, for that matter. Is you wear that uniform, and depending upon what the leadership and the ranking and whatever is all dependent upon what you have on your collar and on what you have on your sleeve. That's what it's all about. And we all understood what that was all about. There was no such thing as unemployment. Everyone had a job. That's what we need. And it's just unfortunate we don't have the draft today, because everybody that's sitting up here on the show right now, we've had that background, and that background really basically is pretty well set our careers once we got out aspect of it. But that basically was the basic. In essence, if parents didn't have the monies to send you to those very lucrative colleges and whatever, and it basically gives you the sort of an officer's rank when you graduate, gives you first right up front. But in the military, it's a whole different ballgame. Everybody has something to do. You got careers, and they can just go from there. So the draft, I'm still saying that's an opinion of mine. Well, I tell you, that was the melting pot as far as I'm concerned in this country, because I came here as a Marine recruiter in the Pacific Northwest, and I'm saying it's really different. And I focus, if you will, on those individuals that were having some tough times. So I just want to let you know about that piece. Veterans Day was great, and everybody here who's with Jack, and we got Bob here. Bob Williams is now here with us also too. He was in the Air Force aspect of it, and he too was military aspect of it, and I'm sure he's got some good things to say. In fact, what we'll do, we'll give Bob an opportunity to chat a little bit about the whole issue of Veterans Day and what he thought about Veterans Day, and just kind of talk a little bit about his time in the service aspect of it. Give you a little opportunity to hear where he's at. Then we'll get into the rest of the show. Bob?
Thanks, Bruce.
Okay.
It's a pleasure being here, and I'm very happy that we continue to let our veterans know that they are appreciated. As I tell my sons, who have none of them have had the opportunity to serve, but I tell them, up until through me, my parents, my grandfather, my brothers, they served. I have another brother. He's a sheriff down in this. I have one that's in Chicago that retired from the Navy. He spent his time. He stayed. It was all the time. I grew up because I joined. I had just finished my first year of college, wasn't happy, and I came home for the summer and I joined the Air Force. And she could not understand it because I was in the middle of Vietnam. And so I was not mature enough to understand certain things that was going on. And it also gave me an opportunity to grow up, to take responsibility and to do positive things. So, you know, Veterans Day means a lot to me in the sense that I get an opportunity to see some of the fellows that I haven't seen, talk to them online, talk and things of that nature.
Mm.
And it also gives me an opportunity to talk to people, one, rather than a group of others. I've always said that in the service, some did, I ain't gonna say all didn't, but some did, but the majority, when we had to go to battle, we didn't look to see if you were black or white next to me. We looked to see that you're an American fighting next to me. Otherwise, we're shooting at stand that as Americans, we have to become one.
I got you.
And, you know, we can talk about different things, the Army, Navy, Marine, they all do the same thing, protect and serve as far as we, the civilians, are concerned, and protect this country.
Okay. Thank you, Bob. And by the way, in all due
That's
respect to the,
fine.
okay, so with the viewing audience, you know, we're not doing Bob justice because it's not coming in too clear. And I want to make sure that you all understand that. Maybe what we can do, we'll get Jack to get involved, and we'll get together, Carrie, for a bit, and see whether or not Steve might be able to do something. And maybe Bob, you can put another signal just for a moment, and then come on back, and then we'll get it and get you back in. Because you were saying some very important pieces, and you weren't coming in clear, and want to make sure that you're giving that 100% of the effort there. Okay, all right. So with that,
Okay.
okay, what we're gonna do? If not that, you can listen, and you guys can still maybe change the signal or whatever. So when I get through, and Jack and I get through, maybe we can try you again and see whether or not you might be able to get in on the conversation. We're gonna now get into the city council and the makeup of the city council, and just maybe talk about some of the events and some of the things that have happened to the city council for this coming, i.e., now gathering of eagles, if you here at City Hall. Okay, good. All right. With that, so now what I'll do, Jack, and I'm going to turn this over to you as a start, as I indicated to the viewing audience, this issue of the Portland Tribune carried that insert of the veterans aspect of it. It was a very interesting issue. This is the front page, and I'm looking at it right now. The front page here, put my peepers on for a second. Front page on it has Mingus Maps on there, and the headline says Maps wins shakes up city council. And interesting thing about him, and he just won that seat. And then the next thing you know, he's sitting up on TV and getting very much involved as if he's already sitting in the seat. He hasn't taken the oath yet. And he's busy. I mean, he's gonna be a busy guy. I was just thinking. I mean, I don't know whether or not the guy served in the service or not. I don't know if he picked up his weapon. He just jumped right out there, right in the front of whatever. And what I meant by that is that there's an article in here that talked about the fact that he knew one of the sitting city councilmen, Dan Ryan, who they had a big vote on the budget aspect of it just recently, and in regards to police reform. And then actually one of the entities, one of the senior members on the vote, Joanne Hardesty, City Council Joanne Hardesty, who's carrying the banner, if you will, on the whole issue of police reform, had basically introduced some reductions. Back, I think it was about $18 million, and that was pretty well known. And they had to vote on that particular. No, that was the first one. And then the second issue was, I think it was 18 or 19 million, and they were basically going to implement that piece, and they were having that discussion, and then they needed 3 votes. And so the other 2 people that did not vote on this particular issue was Mingus of all people. He wasn't sitting on city council, and the other one was Carmen Rubio. But my point is that she won't be seated until January. See, so there was only the three people, actually 4 people. Joanne was there, Ted was there, Udaley was there, and let's see, Udaley was there, with Dan Ryan, Ted Wheeler, and who was the other one was there? Amanda Fritz, right? Yeah, Amanda Fritz was there. And so the politics was that it seems as though, from the public standpoint, that was going to go. That was going to basically be a part and parcel of the reduction, if you will, of reforming some of that money again. But it didn't happen that way. It seems as though Dan Ryan was the one that voted with Ted Wheeler and Amanda Fritz, and it passed. And so consequently, that was definitely an issue. And so there was a lot of politics there along that particular line. I started out with Mingus. He was not talking about another subject. I was going a little bit too fast. I want to bring Jackie in right now, and so we can just kind of, Jackie, you can pick either one of them and discuss it. Okay? But
Well, when the proposal was put forward initially, they voted to defer because they wanted to sit down. Particularly Dan Ryan wanted to sit down with city auditor to understand the impact of cutting $18 million from the budget. And once they sat down, or he sat down and went through the numbers, and Dan's a meticulous, analytical type of person. I have the highest respect for him. And he, based on that, looking at those numbers, he said there would be people that would be let go because they wouldn't be able to fund those positions. So they would cut positions, and his concern was, we're cutting positions, and yet we don't know what the new police force is going to look like, or the new model is going to look like, because in January or February, there's a new police contract that has to be negotiated. So what is that going to look like? What are those skills, what are those people are going to look like? So he thought at this point in time, it was not appropriate. So for that reason, he voted not to increase an $18 million cut. He saw it as a cut that could have ramifications that were not clearly spelled out. So that was his position. Obviously, he supported the same position that Mayor Wheeler and Commissioner Fritz did. Commissioner Udaley voted for the cut, and Commissioner Hardesty voted for the cut from that standpoint. Now, to my knowledge, pending commissioner, or soon to be commissioner, Mingus Matz made no comment on the actual cuts per se. I did read that he said he was looking forward to sitting down and trying to understand the new potential charter or contract between the police and City Hall, and that he wanted to make sure that they had positive steps and positive changes for the police force from that standpoint. But I didn't see that he took a position for or against that position per se. I think many people would suspect, but again, the word suspect and prove are two different things, that he would probably have voted like Dan Ryan.
you know, and then just a little side politics. Initially, Mingus was endorsed by Portland Police, and he did accept some money. They gave him some money, and so that was one of the pieces. And then the other piece was that the fact that the bureau, if you will, as you say, the budget bureau person basically came out and made that statement. But when you think about it, the police commissioner was the mayor, and normally what happens is that if you're sitting there as a police commissioner and the mayor, the bureau, he knew what was going on, and typically all of these bureau folks always will relate to the commissioner who heads that particular bureau. Okay, so now on the other hand, though, but Joanne was right at the front of that piece as far as talking to this issue. You would have thought that maybe someone would have pulled her on the side and said, okay, fine, this is the concern, and maybe that issue could have been resolved prior to that. But politics is politics aspect of it. And then you had the other side of the piece that was going on at the same time was the Dan Ryan deal, and a group of protesters that's going on this house and trying to burn it down or whatever. And then Mingus got involved in that process, and his name became part of the process. So it brought his name to the picture aspect of it. And then you read the article, and all of a sudden, the article talks to the fact that 3 votes were laid out right there. I mean, it was just who's going to be on one side and the other side. And Joanne has been working very hard for her 3 people on the council. she had endorsed the mayor at one point in time, and he accepted that piece, and and and, and so she had, in fact, she had endorsed you daily too at the same time aspect of it. So she had the 3 votes, if you will, at that time. But then at the same time, she basically, I think she had the conversation with the with the mayor in regards to as far as getting his support. But she'd also endorsed Dan Ryan, so she switched over and had 3 votes that way. And all of a sudden, Dan voted the other way. So I'm just saying that to a certain degree, to say that politics, and to the viewing audience, that's the kind of politics you're going to be having on an ongoing basis. And that's why we're going to be here. And Bob is there. He's still there too. And Bob's been in politics for a long time. And he understands the game. And it's a big game. But we're going to have some fun this time around. But still, we're going to have some major discussions. And I think reform is still sitting on the table. Mingus did make the point. He did use the word reform. And what that means, everybody has their own definition and their opinion right now. But sure, some things are going to happen. And I think from a futuristic standpoint, and Bob and I, we kind of talked a little bit about that also too, about the whole issue with the union. And that's been an issue we brought up to the table several shows ago. And hopefully Bob could lead that discussion and kind of just start educating the public about what is the definition of a union and what does it represent. So that if in fact, and because that issue was with, we hear all these things and we got to talk about this piece about who runs City Hall. And then a lot of times it's been said that the police runs the city and things of that nature. But, that's part of the politics. But the union is a very, very important piece. But the union has structure. And so, we're going to have a discussion on the whole issue of the union. And hopefully Bob will bring to the table, because that's his background. And then he's very unique, and he's an expert in that arena. And so we'll have that discussion. But the idea is not to knock the down aspect of it. The idea is to make sure we've got law enforcement, we've got enough cops and this, that, and the other. Everybody gets excited about the fact that, hey, these guys quit or we lose this at this point in time with all of the demonstrations we're having and things of that nature. Guess what? Boom. So we can't afford, as far as I'm concerned, we can't afford to be having any so-called personal problems at this point in time. We don't have the opportunity to do that now. We got to clean this city up, and we need good representation, and we got a good, solid group of folks up there on that city hall, and I think we're sitting right at the top of the heap right now. So we got to make it work, and I think we're going to get something going. But I just thought I'd throw that in, Dak, and Dak gave us a good feel for what's going on, and so now we'll just go in from the discussion. Let's see if we can get Bob in the deal now. We got a better picture, and we got better audio now. Bob, what's on?
Well, I think the one thing we need to understand is that the word is not law, or the word is not demonstrated. The word is law and order. So the police doesn't come and make law; they come and make order. The laws are written by the people that you elect, and the police are the ones that carry that out. So we have to make sure that the police stop being the judge and the jury, i.e. shoot you for minor infractions, and that they are held accountable for their actions. Now, holding them accountable, I've yet to see how taking money from the police department holds them accountable. It might stop them from doing part of their job, but that's not holding them accountable. And so what gives them the idea that they can do some of the things that they do? Well, it's the law. So we need to understand that the first thing we have to do is change the law or improve the law or take something out of the law that gives them the opportunity to understand that the things they're doing is not acceptable by the masses. Therefore, here's the law that is changed, so you have to follow the law as well. And when we talk about unions, a union is simple. It's a spokesperson of that member of that union. And therefore, if you give the union the opportunity not only to help write the contract isn't written by the union, it's written by both parties. So but if you give the union the opportunity to interpret that ambiguous language that's in that contract, they're not going to interpret it for you, they're going to interpret it for their members. So you need to understand that, and we all need to come together and say, hey, here's what the problem is, because we're all over the board on what the problem is. This is a problem, this is a problem, this is a problem. How do we take care of it? Put them at the table as well. They put their representative and the people's representative at the table, and let's get down to it. But this dickering back and forth doesn't do anything. And so my attitude is I'll be glad to get some union people in to talk to the masses, so those that are not union will begin to understand what the function of a union is, what their purpose is, which is wages, hours, and benefits, and so everyone will begin to understand how and why we're in the situation we're in.
Bob, I think it's important to people recognize that there's a union for the fire, and there are unions for every city employee that are available for them to join. So this is not unique.
Right.
The police union is not unique. It is one of several unions for the employees of the city.
Okay, now but Bob made another good point that I thought he made a good point from the standpoint that, they do sit down and negotiate the contract because that's what they have to do. They work on the signed contract aspect of it, and they have that discussion. So, like he said, that when the people, i.e., through the elected officials, are the one representing them at the table, if they don't have that background and don't understand what that means when you sit down and negotiate the contract, then guess what happens? They'll put whatever's in the contract, and when it comes up to, well, gee whiz, I can take sick leave at 1 year, and I can work over here for side money, or I can get more money. And if you sign off on the deal, guess what? That union rep that's sitting up there understands it. In most cases, that is a senior person aspect of it. And so consequently, that's where we are. In fact, Bob would recommend this, but remember this, but Stan Peters. Stan, who was a union rep, he was a hard-nosed dude. And when he sat down there with the city council, right there publicly, he put his 38 on the table and started talking union contract. Remember that, Bob?
Yes, I do.
See? And it just so happened Stan was a former Marine. I think he was a corporal or whatever, but he was a hard-nosed kind of a guy aspect of it. And then they've got an arbitrator in that whole piece too, from the standpoint if they have any differences or whatever. And in all cases, the person who picks that person is the union. That's part of the contract. See, but then on the other hand, as I think about it, when you look at the people we have here now, we've got some very interesting people that are sitting at city council now. With Neptune, with his background, the guy's he's smart. He's not a dummy. Okay, that's one. That's a good one. You got Dan Rines that's been around, if you will, and you got Joanne, who's always been wanting to be the police commissioner, and she understands what a police commissioner is, okay? Because even when we were talking a bit about the budget situation, the budget guy went to the police commissioner, who happened to be the mayor, and basically gave him all of the information and didn't share it with her, because basically she was pushing that piece, and all that dude had to have done was to go to her and say, hey, let me tell you what we're doing. I know you've got these ideas, but now let me tell you how you can maneuver that and do it another way and still get what you want, like he did on the first one, see, when he did on that first one. But that didn't happen. So the politics was there. And then just jumping right into this other issue that, Bob, I'll let you lead on that one. And that is another issue was going on at the same time, talking about this particular issue. All of a sudden, the politics got involved, and she was at a restaurant enjoying herself. And the next thing you know, she jumps in a cabbie, and the next thing the guy puts the windows down, however it is, whether it be a crack or whatever. But the fact of the matter is, she said she was cold. and he said he's gonna drop her off out there in the dock
In the middle
off
of
the
nowhere.
highway. And when you reach that tree, and Bob and I know who Joanne is. I mean, like I said, she's former Navy and she's feisty. She's gonna sit around there and play a game. She said, no, put the damn window up. See? And then the guy said, what? And next thing you know, he just let her out. He said, no, I ain't getting out. As if to say, come and take me out. And so she picked up her phone. He didn't know that she was a city council because he lived in Richmond. He lives in Washington.
And Bruce,
Keep going
the
now.
one
Take
thing I
it, Bob.
respect, the one thing I respect on the whole situation,
Right.
she never tried to use her position in the city
There you
to
go.
make this guy do anything.
That's right. That's
At
right.
least everything I read said that,
That's right.
she tried to handle it as a citizen, not as a commissioner.
Right.
And that's what people don't seem to understand.
But like you
and
said, when he got loud, and she said, wait a minute, no, you can't go that way. I know I'm loud.
She said, I'm calling the police. She said, I'll call the police. And so that took it, Now, the police, knowing who she was, or the person that answered that call, knowing who she was, said to her, this is not an emergency. Why are you using the emergency number? Because they evidently knew the politics that she had been pushing on not using 911
That's right.
for non-emergency call.
That's right.
And
That's
so,
right.
That's where the politics start.
That's right. Right.
So we I'm not taking one side or the other in this one, because to me, it would have been easy for the guy to say, okay, I'm gonna roll this one up some and I'm gonna let this one over here that's not on you down a little bit so we can get this air, and then we're gonna try to make it to your destination. Two people
Bob and Bruce,
working together.
Bob and Bruce, the real question to me is, why is this in the newspaper altogether? Has the Oregonian and the Tribune become the National Enquirer?
That's it.
I don't quite. I mean, I can come up with reasons why it is in the newspaper. Perhaps people would like to undercut Commissioner Hardesty, which I find that's the case. I'm very disappointed in those people. But I'm perplexed on why this was on page 2 of the Oregonian newspaper.
On that particular note, we're going to cut it at that point and take it up at the next show. Trust me, folks. Join us here, because we're going to educate you about what the politics are. And the guys are here. They're all military. Okay? Enjoy your week. We'll see you next round. Take it in and take care. And be safe. Wash your hands. Wear your mask. Stay home. And as Bob would always say, do what your wives say. Jack, do what your wife tells you to do. And we're going to all be happy.
Happy life.
That's right.
Happy
42
wife,
years?
happy life.
Absolutely. Yes, years part of my vocabulary.
That's a good one right there. Jack, close it. Have a good one, folks. We'll see you later on.